Hello, welcome to episode 60 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Or is it Dwarves?
Dwarfs.
Dwarfs, yes. Apparently Tolkien, with The Hobbit a year before this film came out, he had used the term dwarves, plural, which was uncommon, and so there's been a bit of a mix-up. But Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's kind of the granddaddy of animated films, really, and I guess a lot of people would assume that it's the first ever feature-length animated film. There were animated films that were feature-length back in, I think, 1917, which are now lost, and then the oldest surviving film is The Adventures of Prince Achmed from 1926, which is an amazing animated film. But this, this is kind of considered, and it is the first feature-length American animated film. And America is such a big, producer of films, so it's a big one. And also Disney is like the biggest entertainment corporation in the world at this point. It must be. I mean, it's got everything. It's got Star Wars, it's got Marvel, and Disney. It was built off of Mickey Mouse and things like that. And then the merchandising, the parks, everything is huge. And I guess next year would be this film's 80th anniversary. And this year we went to see Zootropolis, or Zootopia, whatever you want to call it, which is, the Walt Disney animated films are still coming, and they're still great. They've changed a lot, and this one is interesting. I hadn't seen the film since I was a kid. I had so many of the Walt Disney films when I was a kid on VHS, and I'd watch them over and over again. But this one I didn't own, so I don't have as much of a memory of it. But as we were watching it, I said this years ago about Dumbo. It was kind of like I'd had a concussion or something, and I only remembered bits of it. Like there was little details. Oh, I remember that. Like I wouldn't have thought of it independently, but once I saw the film again, I thought, oh, I remembered that little moment. But then there are other bits of the film that I didn't remember. And other bits I'd kind of embellished in my head, and I kind of made up scenes and mixed images around and stuff. And so it was really interesting to watch it again after all these years and on Blu-ray. What do you think of it? Watching it now.
Great. I don't think I've ever seen the whole movie. I've seen plenty of
clips.
Parts, clips of it, especially the dancing and singing scene with the dwarfs.
Yeah.
And of course the songs, heard them all before. I've read the book several times, like the children's book where like a pling pling sound comes and you have to go to the next page.
Oh yeah.
It reads for you.
Ah, cool. Did you hear the songs in Norwegian, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But obviously the tune's the same, so.
But I've heard the English ones as well, because every Christmas now they show clips from Disney movies and stuff on TV.
Okay.
And they do a lot of them in English. Yeah. Some of them in Norwegian, of course, for the kids, but yeah. Like hi ho, hi ho.
Hi ho, hi ho, yeah, it's
just
classic,
different in Norwegian.
How's it go in Norwegian?
I'm not going to sing.
You're not going to sing, okay. You're not going to sing. That's fine. Okay, the story, you should know the story, very, very simple. Snow White, she has an evil stepmother who's the queen. She's the princess, but the queen's like, nope, she's too pretty. I don't want her to threaten my good looks. She's the fairest of them all.
Know
and
so
there might be one person out there, and this is for you. I might be pointing at an imaginary person who doesn't even exist, but just for the sake of it, she wants to get rid of her stepdaughter, Snow White, because she threatens her beauty, and so she has her taken off to the forest to get killed. I mean, it's dark. Like, I don't know much about the original story, but I'm assuming it probably had those dark elements. And watching it now, I was actually quite struck by how dark it is, considering some of the later Disney films, I suppose. Not like, recent, but like, 50s, and that kind of thing. But like Dumbo, for example, very just fun, light-hearted film, is one of the early ones. But this one it's really dark. Like,
Dumbo's not fun, it's depressing as fuck.
Is it?
Yes!
Dumbo is depressing as fuck, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, there's sad bits, but it's not dark. It's not like,
No, it's not dark and twisted
I mean,
this,
the
but
first,
this one involves the witch.
The first 5 minutes...
Dumbo is sad.
Fine, it's sad, but the first 5 minutes of this, she's like, take her into the forest
then
and kill her.
Yeah, and bring back
Kill him.
Bring
Do
back
it.
the heart.
she's practically the emperor.
There's skeletons hanging around. You can tell that they've been hanging there dying.
Torturing people in the basement. So there's a really dark moment where the Queen has transformed herself into this ugly witch, which, for the record, is one of the most horrifying images I've ever. I just remember it as a kid being terrified of this cackling witch. Like, oh, horrible! It still gives me shivers, even watching it now. But there's a really dark moment where the old version of the Queen, or the ugly version, she's put a disguise on. She's walking downstairs, cackling about how she's going to go off and kill Snow White, and there's this skeleton that's just kind of like on the floor, trying to reach out of a jail cell, and there's like a pot of water just out of reach, and she's like, thirsty, and kicks it into the skeleton falls to pieces, and she's like, it's just like,
I found that hilarious.
it was just, it's a weird film. Like there's these moments where it just goes so. There's a bit where Snow White runs into the woods and she starts imagining all the trees as monsters and stuff, and her imagination's running wild, and it's like this horrifying sequence, like, and then it's like it's so up and down with the imagery, and you know,
it's Disney.
Part of it could almost be like a horror film, you know, and then the rest is kind of typical Disney, just kind of very like, oh, Snow White prancing around and stuff. And that's one thing I want to say, was that Snow White, there was something unsettling to me about the way she was animated. And I think I'll say that she was probably my least favourite thing about the film. I still liked the character, and I thought she was, you know, enjoyable to watch, but probably my least favourite. Like, there's just something. I think that they filmed an actress moving, and they tried to very carefully match it, if not trace over it. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't looked up everything about this film, but there's something, I don't know, and you can tell they haven't nailed down drawing and animating human. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they used that same animation for some other movies.
Watch
This Dancing.
Yeah, Robin Hood. Yeah, it's interesting seeing that side by side.
Exactly the same way of moving.
So I think they used the same footage and traced. I don't know, but either way, I mean, I kind of like it. It's weird and it's different, you know. It's the fluidity of the movement is off-putting to me at times.
It's like that with old Disney movies. Don't you remember that old Family Guy episode where they're Disney characters and they're moving like so softly?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, ugh, it makes you feel kind of queasy.
Yeah.
And the animals move like that as well. It's just
no, I don't think so. Because
they do.
No,
because I was watching them a lot.
Well, you must not get what I mean. What I mean by that. That I don't know. There's just something about the movement else that just. But I mean, it didn't ruin my enjoyment or anything. It's just something that in the first few minutes I was like, this is kind of weird, and you can tell they hadn't nailed down how to properly animate human features. It's like the old cartoons where it's like Tom and Jerry, and they never show like the head and stuff. I don't know whether that's because they couldn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm going off on a complete tangent here, but I love the animals. Like, probably my favourite thing, well, the dwarfs are probably my favourite thing about the film, but I love the animals. Like the scene where she's tidying up the house, when she gets to the dwarf's house, and she's like, oh, let's tidy up everything. And all the animals are helping her and stuff to wash the dish. Like, the animals were just little gags with them and stuff were really funny, like the turtle, and I just really found them fun and cute. And there's a great bit where one animal is trying to, like, pull down this spider's web, and a little spider comes down and he just starts mouthing off to them. You can't hear him saying it. It's just like, and it's just like, just imagine going, fuck off, you my spider web. And I rewound it to Connie's kind of, I just had to see it again because it was hilarious. The music I really liked. Like, I liked how during the musical numbers, the actions of the characters would go along in beat with the song and stuff. Like, you know, they'll go down the stairs, stuff like that. Like, it pleased me more than it should have. Like, I just really liked it. But one thing I'll say is the middle of the film dragged a little bit. I mean, it's only an hour and 20 minutes, but when Snow White's there and the dwarves, they find her in the bed, and it goes on a bit too long.
The washing thing?
The washing thing. Yeah, maybe the washing scene as well. Because there's such a big gap before we get back to the Queen and that storyline. Because by the time we get to the end of the film, I think the last 10 minutes of the film are so good, like the pacing of it. And the build-up when, you know, the witch is trying to get Snow White to take a bite of the red apple, and the dwarves are rushing back, and it's cutting really fast, and, like, really impressive editing. The middle just seems to drag a little bit for me. Even though I enjoy all the characters, and it's fun and stuff, that's the only kind of complaint I guess I could give it. But it looks great. Like, it's just very of its time, and you got to give it the respect of it being the starting point of Disney films, which, you know, there's been so many classics. Your thoughts? I went off on a bit of a
I agree with most of it.
Okay.
Yes.
You can disagree.
Well, I think it's okay that I agree that it dragged a bit, but I found those scenes necessary anyways. In a way, like maybe it didn't have to go on for so long.
Yeah.
But them looking around the house was necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, maybe they could have cut like a lot of those scenes, and also the washing scene. Maybe you just cut it short, but part of it was necessary.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, and then I always have this thing with musicals where, because it is a musical, you have to call it that, I guess. There's so many songs in it, and even the dialogue at times rhymes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, not all of it, most of it does. And I always find in musicals the thing I don't like about it is that, the story's good in the film, and then it's like, right now let's take a 5-minute break to just kind of do a fun song and just have gags and stuff, and it doesn't really move the story forward. So that's where it tends to drag a tiny bit for me.
The dancing and singing thing. That's like the most famous part of the whole movie.
It is, yeah. I'm not. There's no particular like musical number in the film I didn't like or anything. It's just there's so many of them, and there's such a break away from the story. And there are fun gags in them. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, as a kid, you must be loving it. But watching it now, I'm kind of like it just dragged a teeny bit for me, I'd say. A few bits of trivia. Sergei Eisenstein, who directed the great Battleship Potemkin, he called this the greatest film ever made. It's the favourite film of a certain Adolf Hitler, believe it or not. Interesting note.
He probably loved the Queen.
Wow.
Thirsty, are ya?
That's another dark moment. When she wants Snow White's heart to be brought back in a box, like that's just. Again, there's some dark elements in this, and I thought the Queen the Queen was great when she was the old hag, like such a great visual, and like the woman who did the voice was brilliant. Apparently, the actress who did the voice for Snow White was Disney wanted her performance to be very much like a one-off special thing. So apparently she had a tiny role in The Wizard of Oz a couple of years later, but apart from that, she never had a singing role again in a film or something. Some kind of weird which is interesting to me. It was one of the first. It was the first film to have a soundtrack album. It was the first film to have merchandise available when it came out. It really was kind of the precursor to kind of that kind of franchise film, and branding it and stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I think it is, adjusted for inflation, still the most successful animated film ever. But it is a classic. It's just like not many people are going to say to you, oh yeah, the first animated film was The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, the German silent film. I haven't even heard of that before I saw it last year. So I think everyone looks to this as kind of the first big, proper animated film, and it still holds up. I think. Like I just really, really, really enjoyed it. Is it a film you must see before you die?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's not one of my favorite Disneys. I'm sure I'll watch it again quite a few times, but yeah, it's just an essential, I think.
There's only one favorite old Disney.
What?
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. I don't think that's in the book.
They're stupid.
I know The Lion King is, but yeah, and there's
that's very up there as well.
And then there's quite a few more Disney films, so which I'll probably definitely watch with Connie. So we'll probably talk about some more Disney films. But anything else you want to add about Snow White?
You didn't want to add some trivia?
Hadn't I done that already?
No.
No? Okay.
Good.
Yeah. What else can I say? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to touch on, because we just watched the film, so it's still quite fresh.
The Queen really isn't fair at all.
She
ugly.
The kind of the theatre mask face in the mirror was creepy as hell. Like just the way, like when his eyes would open to, like I liked how you could get expression out of just this mask, but it was still kind of creepy as well. I didn't like how the prince turns up for like 3 seconds and is instantly in love with Snow White, and then he turns up again at the end, and it's just like, But apparently, I read that they kind of cut his part short because they couldn't really animate it the way they wanted to. So again, I don't know if it's the limitations of what they could do at that point. Obviously animation in the form that it was in at that point at least for a feature film, was probably quite limited. But you know, it still holds up, and I really love the dwarfs. All of the dwarfs. I liked how they kind of characterized them and stuff. You know, I mean, it's just very simple, and you know, obviously grumpy is grumpy, sleepy is sleepy, sneezy is sneezy, dopey is dopey. It goes on. You know, Doc. I liked the guy who was just like getting all of his words jumbled up and stuff. I really like humor that revolves around messing up what you're trying to say for some reason. It just tickles me. And Grumpy was probably my favorite, I think. Because he's just so like doesn't like Snow White and stuff, and then there's a great women like and then there's a great bit where they're all getting kisses on their bald heads, and he's like and then he checks in the mirror to see if his head is okay, because he wants the kiss, but he's trying to be standoffish about it, and I thought his character was great, and that was probably my favorite of the dwarfs, but they're all fun, and
he cries in the end as well. Like,
yeah,
he really does care about her.
That was actually, I did get a tiny bit, you know, I didn't like tear up or anything, but I got a little bit of, oh, that's quite nice, you know, that you saw, you know, Grumpy get a little bit emotional at the end, and that was quite cool. And obviously with I guess with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I preferred the dwarfs.
And he blew her a kiss as well in the end.
Yeah, he blew her a kiss as well at the end. So, yeah, overall, like, the animals, the dwarfs, like the mirror thing, and the queen. I liked all of them. It was just Snow White was just almost the blandest character, you know, and she's the titular character, but still.
I agree.
It was great. So yeah, definitely a film you must see before you die, and thank you for watching.